Jordan, you want to unmute and start the recording? It's 9:30 a.m. and I'd like to call the Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 regular meeting of Athabasca County Council to order. Good morning, everyone. The first item of business is the approval of the agenda. As is the normal case, I'll go through and list the items that I know we need to discuss and then open the floor to any other things that you want to add. Items that must be discussed are 4.2, delegation. 5.1, I'd like to add 6.1, 7.6, 8.2, 9. We'll come back to that. And then all of item 12. I'd like to add item 9.1. Administration has asked us if we would consider adding 9.1 regarding the Atmore Hall. So unless there's objection to that, put that on. And we'd like to delete items number 4.1 and 7.8 regarding the delegation for Mr. DeHollock, who is unable to attend. I would open the floor to other items. Councillor Chamsnick.
7.2 and 8.1A.
7.2 and 8.1A. Okay. Councillor Holland.
Thank you. 7.3. 7.5. Please. And we mentioned 7.6, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Others? Councillor Minns.
7.5. Oh, it's already on there.
What's already on?
Oh, wait.
Okay, so going through from the top, we have number 2, obviously, 4. So we're going to delete 4.1. We're going to talk about 4.2, 5.1, 6.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.5, 7.6, 8. Delete 7.8, 8.1A, 8.2. We'd like to propose to add 9.1, the Atmore Community Hall. And 12.1, 12.2, and 12.3. And I think just because it looks like we're going to have some time, I'll add 10.1V, Greater North. Councillor Wallach, did you want to move the agenda? Councillor Wallach has made a motion to move the agenda as amended and to approve the items per the recommended motions for the items not selected for discussion. Is there any further discussion, additions, or changes? Seeing none on the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? And opposed, the count is 7-0. The motion is adopted. All right, check bar. Moving along, we have number 5.1. I added 5.1 to the agenda to see if there was another motion that would come from the floor of council, because I think the question that came from me was, what are we doing with this information that's cost us nearly $7,000 to gather? And to just accept it for information and park it on a shelf seems irresponsible. And so is there a motion regarding that item? That is any motion. Councillor Holland?
I don't necessarily have a motion, but I agree. That's something we should have more conversation about. I do have a couple of questions, but I'm not necessarily ready to.
Would there be any objection at the table to not taking the motion and just having a brief discussion on the side? Are you yawning objections? No objections. So that we'll assume is unanimous consent to vary from the procedural bylaw on that. And Councillor Holland, I'll open the floor to you.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious, through the chair to administration, I understood that we have our own county traffic counters. I was just curious why they weren't used. Is there not sufficient or something like that?
Good morning, through the chair. Yeah, we do have our own counters, but they don't differentiate between OHVs and vehicles. And the motion was the resolution was pretty specific, and so that's why we had to use outside resources.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Counselor Mins or Counselor Holland, do you want to follow up or?
Please.
Okay, go for it,
Um,
and Counselor Mins, you're on deck.
So with regards to this report that we did receive, do we have anything to compare it to as far as, is this excessive? Is this not excessive? Is this normal? Do we have anything to compare it to?
CAO?
All I could say is, perhaps there was previously a motion, as it relates to road upgrades to bring back some of the higher count roads for council discussion during budget deliberations for 2025. There's a motion on the books for us to do that. Maybe we'll insert those in here. From a layman's perspective, it's not a quiet road, but it's not excessive. I think Alberta Transportation's guidelines for when they start thinking about major upgrades to roads are 400 vehicles per day or AADT. And so we're under that, but it's more than just a sleepy little local road. But I think you'll see it in the perspective when we present that information about the top 10 busiest roads in the county, you'll see where this one might land, and it would probably be at the lower end of that.
Just the last question. So this is basically then something that we need to look at with regards to budgetary and whether or not it's something that we will add more resources to that road if it's necessary. That kind of what I'm gathering.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, really all the roads. I mean, yeah, this is nothing remarkable about this one. All the roads need to be categorized and prioritized. Let's put it that way.
Thank you very much.
Counselor Mins. You had your hand
Yeah,
up. If you still want the floor, it's yours.
Yeah, I was just, a few of the questions that I had were answered. It was, I guess with such a extravagant, collection of data and not, how are we going to actually compare this to other roadways that all of a sudden we use our county counters on there and maybe it's 200 vehicles or something like that a day, and all of a sudden, well, whether most of them were quads or most of them were heavy trucks or stuff like that. It's my biggest question was what was the cost, and it looks like it was $7,000 to do this.
6883 is what the report says.
It was, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and it's been a long time since I've seen even transportation do such an extensive out like this. It's hopefully we're not gonna start doing this across the county, especially when we have our own counters. That's my point of view. Thank you.
Counselor Chamzik, the floor is yours.
I thought near the beginning of our term, we specifically bought traffic counters that could be calibrated to do differentiate between no,
I remember a motion to acquire, I think about 7 extra ones. So there's probably a number around, but in terms of the mechanics of them, that's something that
maybe perhaps that was just a discussion and
I
if
think we
there was
budgeted.
such a thing.
I think we budgeted money for it at one time, but whether, don't know. Any other comments? For me, I think there's a bit of a lesson here, or maybe I'll give the floor to the CAO, but I'll say thinking back to where we're at, the lesson in my mind for me is to be more clear or to ask more questions about what we intend to do with the data, what that we ask for, because this is a gross spend in my mind for something we actually don't even, 7 of us at the table plus administration have no idea what we're going to do with this data, and good learning opportunity, and I'm glad we only counted 1 intersection on 1 weekend and not a dozen of them. So I know I'll ask more questions about what do we plan to do with this once we get it next time, and appropriate item maybe given that discussion, and it sounds like administration has said we can utilize this data in budget discussions and prioritization, maybe the reasonable motion is the recommended one, and I'll give the floor to the CAO and then seek a motion from you. CAO, did you have a comment or?
Mr. Chairman, just, it just does highlight maybe a process improvement that we could make is if a member wants to make a motion from the floor that's going to create work and other things, and you would put a deadline on it, maybe you want to report back from administration before you actually vote on that instead of just dropping a motion on the floor, because that's kind of where the spending came from, was we couldn't meet that timeline in-house and we couldn't meet it the way that it was written. So it was resulted in us spending money. Maybe council needs to know that before you vote on the motion. So I don't think there was an RFD on the table. We didn't get a chance to give you any information, and it's good information, but if we included a whole bunch of intersections in a study or roads, probably would have brought the per road amount down an awful lot. So just for future info, Mr. Chair.
This came up in a discussion around a land use classification change that has since gone to public hearing and then had second and third readings passed. So it wasn't useful in that decision, certainly, because that one's made. Is someone willing to move a motion or the recommended motion, or Councillor Anderson?
I'd be willing to move the recommended motion. And yeah, as you stated, this came out of a application for redistricting of a property, specifically a campground. And I just think that we really have to remember in the future what costs we are taking on just because we want the information or because somebody wants the information, versus maybe waiting until further development was going to actually occur on that property and then requiring a traffic count as part of a development permit condition, so that it's not necessarily just admin trying to get information without an end goal.
So the motion on the floor is to receive this report as information. Now it would be appropriate to open the floor for discussion on the motion. Councillor Holland, I saw you waving. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I don't know if we can just make a friendly amendment to receive this information and further include it in our budget and finance discussion for comparison with other roads.
Do you have any objections to just adding and include it in the budget and finance deliberations?
I don't think it's required because we've already directed administration to bring back
The list.
the list of projects, and that information will be part of their rating matrix.
So Councillor Holland, open to a formal amendment if you want.
Nope, that's fine. As long as it's coming back for more conversation. Thank you.
And I think once we take it on as information, it's in the library of data. So are you okay with it? The motion on the floor is to receive this report for information. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, on the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 7-0 and the motion is adopted. We're at number 6.1, which is bylaw 0202024 lot consolidation within the Southeast 276522-4. This is a bylaw to consolidate lots 16 and 17. Administration has provided us some information that the applicant would like to develop these two lots as one. Director Wilkinson, do you have any comments that are not included in your package? Okay. Is there anyone willing to move first reading? Councillor Chamzik has moved first reading of 0202024. Any further discussion? Seeing none. On the question of the adoption of first reading of bylaw 0202024, all those in favor? Opposed? The first reading has been adopted. Is there anyone willing to move second reading? Councillor Kapitanek has moved second reading of bylaw 0202024. It's a bit of a tongue twister, almost. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, on the question of the adoption of second reading, all those in favor? Opposed? Count is 7-0 and second reading has been adopted. Is there anyone willing to move unanimous consent for third reading? Councillor Holland has moved unanimous consent. Is there unanimous consent to move to third reading? The count is 7-0. Unanimous consent is achieved. Is someone willing to move third reading? Councillor Mims? See, we're not going to get to two on the same motion, Tracy, so. Councillor Mims, the motion is on the floor to move third reading of bylaw 0202024. Any further discussion for the last time on this motion? Seeing none, the question, the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? Opposed? And the motion, third reading is adopted. We are moving on to item number 7.2. Councillor Chamzik, you added this to the agenda and would like to speak to it.
Yes, please. The chair of the board has asked that I refer this to next meeting, please.
So Councillor Chamzik is making a motion to table this item to the September 29th, 7th. Let's just pick a few dates and. Sorry, I should know the dates of the meetings, but it's September 26th. So the motion is to table this item to the September 26th County Council meeting. Tabling motions are non-debatable, therefore we'll go right to the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Count is 7-0, and that item is tabled to the next meeting. Councillor Holland, you asked for 7.3 to be on the agenda. Is there a motion you would like to make?
Thank you very much. I just have a couple questions. I'm not prepared to put through the recommended motion as it sits right now.
Do you have a
So-
motion or?
Not right now. I just have a few questions before I can make that decision.
Okay, so let's start with a motion and then we can amend it. Councillor Anderson.
I move the recommended motion.
Okay, so Councillor Anderson has moved that council approves the Athabasca District Ag Society's funding request of 500 for the harvest dinner of 2024. Do you want to have any comments to open it? Okay, Councillor Holland, you had your hand up. You're on deck.
Thank you very much. I was just curious through the chair to Councillor Wallach, being that this is your application. I'm sorry,
Questions need to go to administration. Councillor Wallach didn't,
can't do that.
I don't see that this is Councillor Wallach's application.
Uh,
This is from the
Name.
Athabascan District Ag Society.
Okay, sorry, I'm just seeing the president chair there. So I guess more than anything, what I'm looking at here on page 99 is already a projected surplus. And then it mentions at the bottom, as it was the last, same as the last request, any surplus will be spent on upgrades to the riding arena. Does the riding arena, through the chair to administration, that type of funding, is it covered under the grant request, like the eligibility for that grant?
Dr. Robley?
Mr. Chair and members of council, that wasn't part of the consideration for this, this request. We don't consider the riding arena as, it's not part of the application.
Okay, so the application does mention, as it did the last one, any surplus will be spent on upgrades to the riding arena. And being that this particular application is already showing a surplus, I find it very difficult to fund further taxpayer dollars into something that showing a surplus and may not be eligible for this particular grant. So I'm sorry, as much as I appreciate the agricultural societies and everything that they do, we also have to be fiscally responsible with taxpayers' dollars. And without that information, I'm unable to go forward.
Other comments? I hear some rumblings from Councillor Capital. Councillor Anderson, you do get final word. Councillor Mims or Chamzik, Wallach. Councillor Kapitanek.
Yeah, I think what is being brought to attention is that if there is a surplus from any fundraisers or any donations that come in throughout the year, that's where that money's going for. And that's pretty common with service organizations that I'm familiar with. If we are fundraising, for example, and I'll just use Rotary as our sponsors are well aware, for the Don't Meth With Us program, and we actually make more money than we need to buy t-shirts and stuff, we always let them know what the excess money will go to. And in our case, it's the library, the Dolly Parton Library. But the idea is that you're not we're not fundraising, or I'm reading this as they're not fundraising for the riding arena. They're just saying, if we make more money than we anticipate, this is where your money will go. And that's standard. And I think that the public are comfortable with knowing that their money is going to something that's still being utilized by the community. It's for the community, and it's not a private endeavor. So I am absolutely for donating $500 to the Egg Society for their harvest dinner.
Okay, so council, check mark. I'm gonna put a check mark by me. I would like to suggest that egg societies are one of the, as societies go, they're jewels in our region in terms of the good work that they can do and the hard work they do. And I think that society should be encouraged to generate surpluses to further the good work that the organizations do. In the case of the Athabasca and District Egg Society in particular, they do not get the support from the county that every other egg society within our perimeter gets, because their dirt is located inside the municipality of the town of Athabasca. So they're ineligible for a lot of the other funding that we would just, as a matter of course, routinely provide to the others, like the assistance with electricity and home grants. So I think this is an event that I've personally attended and is very popular with our residents. The people that I see there are Athabasca County residents, and it's a way we can support the event that benefits people that live and pay taxes in our region. So think that's something we should definitely continue forward with. Further comments? The people who haven't spoken, Councillor Mins or Chamzik? Councillor Mins, floor is yours.
So it's, I was just reading here, so if there's an excess of revenue over expenses, a statement of intent. Intended use must be included in this application, so that's why they put it in there, right? So it's just where this money is gonna go if there is excess money, so. So I don't know. I don't know what. Like if it would have been intended to go into just a bank account, would. I don't know if that would change anything. I don't know. It's, they're asking where the money should possibly gonna go, so I don't know if there's a stepping stone there or not. I have no idea. That's the only thing I've noticed on reading that. Okay. So I guess my question would be is what would change this? If they didn't put anything there, then it wouldn't be put through, right? Because the application isn't completed. So they have to put something. So I don't know if there's something in there that they put that go to a barbecue or something like that, or something like that. Like,
Party for the exec.
is it gonna change anything? Like if they put something different in there, I don't know if I'm coming across right or not, but.
What I think you're saying is like, they did what we asked them to do by telling us, if your event makes money, what do you do with the surplus?
Right, and if there's something different that they do, can we say no to it? I don't know.
Councillors, any of the Councillor Chance, okay, Councillor, do you want to make final word? We'll go to the question if you're ready.
Egg societies do incredible work in our community, and if they can pull off a fundraiser and host an event at the same time to benefit our community, that's fantastic. And the fact that they're going to use any surpluses to maintain a community building is great, whether it's supporting a local community center who's trying to raise a little bit of money on a chicken or pierogi supper to help pay their bills and maintain the community hall, or keep a park or a playground going. I think these are fantastic events for us to support, and they benefit the community in multiple ways. So I'm in favor.
So the motion on the floor is that council approves Athabasca District Agricultural Society's funding request for $500 for the Harvest Dinner 2024. On the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 6-1 and the motion is adopted. We are at number 7.6. Oh, sorry, 7.5. I have got ahead on my 7.5. Counselor Holland, you asked for that to be on the agenda. Do you have a motion you'd like to make?
Um. Yes,
Or is
actually.
this one you'd like to see just discussed?
No, actually, I do have a recommended motion, but the dates will change here based on, a bit of confusion, I guess, because of what our policy 8105 says. So the motion that I would recommend is that council schedules the 2025 budget meetings on the following dates. So instead of October 3rd special meeting, it would be, October 15th for Cal, Committee of the Whole. Instead of October, what did I put there? October 22nd. Oh, that was fine to leave October 22nd, special council meeting after MPC. And instead of November 14th, November 19th for Committee of the Whole. And if we need any further conversation or motions that need to be made, November 28th in council, and December 10th, of course, for the budget adoption.
Do you want all of those in there?
I don't necessarily know if we need December 10th. I was just replacing October 3rd and 14th here.
So we'll leave the 28th out as well. Because there's already a meeting. Counselor Wallach, then
Sorry, just to
Sounds-
clarify, you don't want just specific budget meetings, like you want to move them to Cal or?
Yes, we have a policy, 8105, and so that is already kind of being circumvented as it is. I don't see it personally, in my opinion, when we have meetings already scheduled that we are able to have these conversations in, that we would need a special council meeting. And I think it's been pretty clear that I believe that Committee of the Whole should encompass both budget and finance as well as policy review.
Counselor Chamzik.
I know that I also have issues. October 3rd, I will not be available. And depending on our org meeting, the 14th, I will not be available possibly as well.
Counselor Kaputanek.
I would like to just direct a question through the chair to administration, because it was administration who proposed these dates to my knowledge. And just because I think that they were fine as is, but what their questions are and concerns and what works in your schedule. That's, I think, what I want to hear.
CIO.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we have no concerns with the changes to the dates. I guess the hope of having special dates just for budget is so that we don't just tack budget on to the end of an otherwise busy agenda, and we don't spend the time on it that probably we should be spending on budget discussion, but we can work with whatever works for council. Sometimes it's better off if it's the only thing on the agenda, but those dates work for us also, Mr. Chairman.
I'm not available November 19th, if that matters.
Thanks for the calendars for this.
Just Counselor Wallach.
I do like the recommendation from admin, just because of the spacing between the meetings, if there is major things like October 3rd to the 22nd. It gives us a bit more time versus the 15th to the 22nd. So that they have a bit of time to make those adjustments in the budget.
So we have a motion from Councillor Holland that is on the floor. I'll repeat it and then we can sort of discuss it more formally. And if we don't like the dates, we can change them or defeat it and go to the recommended motion, I think. So the motion that Councillor Holland, please give me the correction if I don't read it the way you had envisioned it. That council schedules the 2025 budget meetings on the following dates: October 15th, October 22nd, and November 19th. Okay, that's the motion. Is there, I'm going to open the floor for discussion. Any further discussion? Sorry, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I think our October committee of the whole meeting, just from what we've already asked administration to bring forward for that meeting, will probably be quite lengthy as it is, and not able to accommodate a in-depth discussion on the budget at that meeting. Without rearranging everything that we've already told them we wanted brought to that meeting, so. And I don't want budget discussions to end up being hurried or not be able to look at it in depth, especially those first couple looks, you know, when we're really trying to sort through all of it. I just don't think we would be doing justice to the process if I do.
Councillor Chams.
The issue that I definitely am seeing here too, we also have two members that were not aware of any of their dates as well. I know with the written motion from administration, I'm unavailable potentially for two of those dates, one for sure. I mean, and we can't make everything, and I mean, that information will be more than shared, and I'm sure we'll have time to question and have time with it. Is there any way that potentially this is something that we could look at even via email with respect to our two missing colleagues?
I think, I mean, in terms of attending meetings, everybody knows when the meetings are. And the work of council should not stop because council members aren't present. It's our job to make decisions and move on. And so I'm not sure. I would have a bias against that. You still have the floor. Further comments?
I just struggle because I mean, we've made accommodations in the past, and you know, as we know, we're headed into busy season with conference season, as I like to call it, around the corner. And you know, the uptick with a lot of our quarterly committee listings, so on and so forth, that we just try to make this as fair as possible for all of us.
Councillor Walk.
Do you have any alternate dates for budget meeting?
I think most of the ones that Councillor Holland did suggest could works for me. But I mean, other than just a couple of dates, like the week of the 3rd, I'm definitely gone, but if you spend them on me, I can probably work with it.
Okay, who do we have? Councillor Kapitanek, you said what you need to. Councillor Mins, you want the floor?
Yeah, I totally agree with administration wanting to set some days apart for the budget meetings, just due to the fact that it is a long drawn out process. And I think we need to actually dabble into the budget a little bit more than we have been. There's going to be some big questions coming up. Big one for me is going to be road construction. What are we doing? No way. I know it shocks the heck out of everybody, but But and that's a huge concern on my end. And I think there's more of that budget that we need to actually understand a little bit better on where money's going and stuff like that. So I'm okay with doing the changing the dates and everything, because tapping it into the committee of the whole, I know by the time we end up in the afternoon, it's like, okay, everybody wants to get out of here. And there's some counselor updates to go a little long. And that, so putting them all onto the committee of the whole, I don't think will work, but I'm just wondering why special council meetings, why not, where did the budget and finance committee go? That was one question I had. It's why special council and why not budget and finance?
That's in the answer to that question is in the administrative package. The administration is suggesting special counsel replace these so the council can vote on the motions when necessary and expedite the process. In the background section.
Yeah, and I read that
Maybe they
too, but
wanna-
I'm just wondering why.
I don't know if they want to speak to that or if that's fully said.
It's pretty self-explanatory, Mr. Chairman.
So make sure you have the opportunity.
As well as, I mean, setting budget is one of your most important functions as a council, and it's important to remember that the Policy Review Committee and Budget Finance Committee are not broadcast to the public whatsoever. Probably be best practice for the public to see council's deliberations on what has to go into budget preparation. And so between that and the decision-making ability that council has at a meeting, probably best practice to hold them with a full council at a council meeting of some sort. I wish we had started sooner so that you weren't pushed up against the wall, but here we are.
It's all a work in progress.
Just to follow up on
You
that.
still have the floor.
Thank you for that. And I totally understand that and everything. So, and I'm okay with that. It's just, I just wonder, okay, so are we gonna get rid of the budget and finance committee? Just totally get rid
I
of it?
think that's a
because-
different discussion for a different day, but
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd love to speak to that.
since your microphone's on, I would invite you to.
Some time ago, council asked for passed a motion for the CAO to bring back suggestions on what could improve governance and streamline decision-making. So that's on my to-do list, and that discussion will come up. Mr. Chairman.
Perfect. There you go. Answered my question. Thank you.
I'm gonna say on this one, I will vote against the motion because I favor the dates that administration has proposed and favor dedicated meetings for budget. You know, whether someone is a council or not, I mean, we can't hold off decisions because, you know, members aren't at the table. They have had the opportunity to see this coming and voice. We've also heard that COW is already looking like it's going to be fairly busy in October, and for me, budget is our single most important policy decision, and we need to dedicate time where that is the exclusive focus. And you know, if we had the desire in terms of the idea that it's special counsel, but we also have a budget and finance committee that has its own elected chair, I think we're at the will of council at a special council meeting. I'd be open to the idea of seeking a motion at the very beginning to vary from the procedural bylaw and step out of the chair for the purpose of that meeting and have the budget and finance committee chair the meeting if that didn't create too many ripples. But that's something the council would have to agree to. So I think I'm also not actually clear how this violates policy 8105 or creates an issue with 8105. It just says we have a committee. We're not prohibited from just having a special council meeting to do this work either. Everybody's been around once, I think, except Counselor Capitanek. Do we need to go twice, or can I give Counselor Holland the floor? Do you want to speak? And then we'll give Counselor Holland the floor.
No, actually, it's okay. No, I'm good. This is pretty basic.
Counselor Holland, do you want a final word and then we'll call a question?
Thank you very much. I'm glad we had this discussion this morning because it's highlighted a few of the areas that I have been concerned about, and I see that they are coming eventually here to be straightened out. My only other question that I do have would be for the special council meeting. Will it be live streamed?
Yes, council meetings are live streamed. That's part of the
Special
policy.
council meeting. It specifies? I don't recall.
Oh,
that
it's a
specifying.
council.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I think our practice has been this is live streamed. The motion on the floor is the council schedules the 2025 budget meetings on the following dates. October 15th in conjunction with COW, October 22nd, and November 19th in conjunction with COW. All those in favor? Opposed? The count is 2 and 5. The motion fails. Councillor Capitanek has made the recommended motion that council schedule the 2025 budget deliberations on the following dates: October 3rd, October 22nd, and November 14th. Is there any further discussion on that? Councillor Mins.
Could we put an amendment in there to say that, to look at those dates at the next county council meeting, maybe when everybody's here, to make sure that it works with them, or?
Do you think that could just happen naturally at calendars like we would typically do?
I guess we can, as long as.
Because once they're in the calendar, our amendments, if you want to make it, I'll run it through. But normally when something hits the calendar, then we get to calendar section and we talk about them and say, man, can we shift this here or there? And like
Okay.
NBC or any of
Yeah.
those other ones.
Okay.
So if you'd like an amendment, I can.
No, as long as we're up to being able to change the date, so we could have all the council there, but we'll see how it works.
Further discussion? Okay. Don't see any hands shooting up on the question of the adoption of the motion. The council schedules 2025 budget meetings on October 3rd, October 22nd, and November 14th. All those in favor? Opposed? The count is 5 and 2, and the motion is adopted. We are at item 7.6. This is the Wandering River welcome sign. That's on page 108, sorry. And Councillor Capitanek.
Make a motion to table
Oh,
this.
can you put your microphone on?
To table this item to budget and finance.
As we know, tabling motions are non-debatable. There is a motion on the floor to table this item to a budget and finance discussion meeting.
I can elaborate if you'd like, just why. I think that there should be a greater look at signage for the hamlets of the county. And I think it's exceptional that a group has come together and raised funds to do this. But before we go and make decisions, I would like to have the discussion in budget that perhaps we do this without utilizing a group's funds and they can use that for something else in their community that might be more in their lane. I think signage should be in our lane. Does that make sense? I want to talk about improving it
At that
before
meeting.
we take their money or match their money. If that's
So
okay.
the motion on the floor
know where
to
I'm going with
table
that.
this to a budget and finance meeting, or to a meeting around the 2024 budget. All those in, sorry, 2025 budget. Yeah, because otherwise time would be hard. On the motion to table this to a budget meeting, all those in favor? Opposed? Count is 7 and 0. And that motion is adopted. 8.1A, Councillor Chamzik.
On October 11th is the Grassland Turkey Trot. And on November 9th is the Atmore Creek Tournament.
Sorry.
October 11th is the Turkey Trot. And then on November 9th is the Atmore Creek Tournament. Thank you.
Any other items to add to the community events calendars? Seeing Councillor Anderson, your hand is up.
The calendar includes on October 10th, the Boyle Thanksgiving Market, starting at noon, and I believe that starts at 3 p.m.
That's October 10th, the Boyle Thanksgiving Market starting at 3 p.m. Councillor Chamzik, are you willing to make a motion to receive the community events calendars as amended? Councillor Chamzik has made a motion to receive the community events calendars as amended. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Mins? No. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is adopted. The count is 7-0. Weird item 8.2. This is the meeting calendars for County Council. That begins on page 122 of your agenda. Yeah, let's start. We'll just work our way around the circle. Councillor Kapitanek.
Never mind. That reason I can see power of working with everybody now. I see. Don't have a council meeting. I thought I was gonna have.
I think you're looking at the wrong calendar. This item 8.2 on page 123.
Not on the council calendar, it's not a meeting calendar. I was confused because I didn't have on. Yeah. So that needs to go onto the council calendar.
Okay, add Power Up North to the color.
So there is a council meeting on the same day as Power North. That's why I like Power North.
So Power Up North in October. Okay, you can add that.
Yeah, it should. Council business.
Councillor Anderson.
Have we confirmed the date for tri-council?
I think we thought October 17th administration.
That's correct,
It's
Mr. Chairman.
just still sitting as tentative on our calendar, so I want to make sure.
It's confirmed.
And you'll surprise us with the location later?
Yes, we shall.
Perfect. The surprises are good. No. Anything else on my right?
My house.
Your house. Councillor Wallach.
Regional healthcare meeting on September 23rd. Sorry. Myself.
Okay. That's it. Councillor Chamzik, the floor is yours.
September 19th, Town Library. October 10th at 1 p.m. FCSS. October 15th, Boyle Library, October 17th, Town Library.
Okay, Councillor Wallach, we're going to just reverse a little.
Sorry,
bit.
Alberta Hub meeting on October 1st,
Where is that?
in Lamont.
Oh, okay. Councillor Holland.
Thank you. There's a rural community health provider attraction retention conference also between the 8th and the 10th. I'm not sure if we have anyone from the county attending, but I believe there's someone going from Boyle, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, in town, okay. And I think everything else is there. Thank you.
Councillor Mins. No. I think I still to be confirmed the North Alberta Alliance for Growth and Opportunity, which is the Northeast Mares and Reeves, I believe is October 1 in Lamont. NAAGO. But that's a tentative date they're looking at. Okay, calendars. Someone willing to move them as Councillor Mins would like to move the calendars as amended? Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, on the question of the adoption of the motion to accept the calendars as amended, all those in favor? Opposed, the count is 7-0 and the motion is adopted. Let's take a 10-minute break because our delegation will be here. Yeah, so Good going here. It is 27 minutes past 10, and I'd like to reconvene the Tuesday, September 10th Athabasca County Council meeting. We are at item number 4.2, detachments from our local, delegation, which is a presentation from our local RCMP detachments. Welcome. Thank you again for being here. You know, we always tend to start with Athabasca, so why don't we start with Sergeant Simpkins and work our way that way.
Good morning, Sergeant Simpkins, commander of the Boyle Athabasca Traffic Unit. I just brought a snapshot of the last 3 months, so June, July, August, just our enforcement and our objectives and some of the things we've been doing in the areas of Athabasca County. Just recently had one member deployed to assist with the Jasper reintegration for the wildfires. On June the 4th, we did a distracted driving presentation to the Edmund Parr Composite School. I think it was grades 10, 11, and 12, if I recall correctly. I think there was close to 60 some students in attendance, plus several staff members. We put students through various distracted driving type scenarios with decks of cards and stuff where they had to organize cards and being asked questions at the same time. So it was distracting them, and some of them did well, some of them did not so well. So yeah, just recently in the last few weeks, we've assisted both detachments with several I don't know if they're high profile files, but some significant files. One was a suspect that approached the Boyle office with an axe. I happened to be standing outside when that person walked by, so that came to a successful conclusion. The same day, we assisted with a search warrant on suspect that was suspected of some voyeurism. One of them incidents happened in the Athabasca area, and it was confirmed that he was in the area, I think the day before, because by luck I conducted a traffic stop, and it was the guy, and Edmonton police had been looking for him and was attempting to conduct a search warrant the following day. So it just firmed up that he was in the area, and it was just a fluke on my part. We assisted the Boyle detachment in the retrieval of a stolen Super B load of lumber. Was valued in excess of $400,000, truck, trailer, and load. And that was in the Athabasca County area. Just recently in Athabasca, I think last Tuesday, we assisted with a stolen vehicle that was from Cold Lake or Slave Lake down to West Lock and then back up into this area. I believe 2 people were arrested on that. Just recently, one of my fellas picked up an impaired driver on a swather on the highway. So common misconception out there, but it's a conveyance. So if you're on the roadway, you will be charged with impaired driving criminal. And that's the charge will be forwarded to Crown on that. First day of school, August 29th. I was the only one working, so I worked in the Boyle school zone. Top speed in the morning was 77 kilometers an hour in the 30-kilometer-an-hour zone. And the next one down was 66 kilometers. So 2 people were in excess of double the speed limit in the school zone on day 1. So stats for for those last 3 months, June, July, August, we had the 1 criminal impaired on the swather. We had 1 90-day IRS fail. So somebody blew a fail on the proof screening device, which means their blood alcohol concentration was excess of 100 milligrams. Criminal code's 80. So our ASDs, approved screening devices, are set at 100 milligrams to read a fail. We had 3 violations for alcohol and cannabis violations. So whether it's open in the vehicle or not packaged properly or been smoked. 17 seatbelt tickets were issued. and 17 distracted driving. Don't know if they were all the same vehicles, but speed tends to be always there. We wrote 120 speeding tickets. And to keep in mind, there was only really 1.5 of us working. Not really on the road as much as my my other employee. And other charges could be anything like no insurances or drive while unauthorized. We did 33 of those. And in the area, we conducted 16 operations. So whether it be seatbelt operations, cell phone operations, or impaired driving check stops. So 16 total of those. So the mandatory alcohol screening, that's where we stop vehicles and do the mandatory, the mass screening on drivers. We did 175 of those in the 3 months. And we assisted both detachments a total of 27 times in those 3 months. So when we're out there and they get a call, we'll assist for sure. And we were nice 7 times and wrote 7 warnings. And I think that's about all I have.
Those are impressive stats. We'll come back with questions because I'm sure there'll be a couple, but it's amazing for the size of team you have, the amount of ground you've covered there. Sergeant Paprese, did you?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the invite. Good to see everybody. Everybody seems well. I'm just providing a snapshot of the April, May, and June, but obviously we're carrying into the early fall, so busy summer for everybody. Just a snapshot. So our priorities that we identified through our town halls early spring were, I wanted to keep things fairly broad versus try to identify that we're going to do 300 things and not have the staff to do everything. So my big focus for the year that we identified was traffic safety as a priority, as well as community relations and just being out there high visibility with the public. So the snapshot of what we did for April, May, June in the traffic safety area is we continued traffic enforcement efforts and visibility throughout the Boyle jurisdiction. We did JFOs whenever we could. That's a joint force operation. That was generally with traffic services or other agencies. And we had 4 documented JFOs that occurred in the Boyle jurisdiction. Carrying into summer, we did anticipate they're going to be a little less just with staffing shortages, trying to accommodate holidays and some absences. Going into the summer, we were short 2 positions out of 6, just with transfers. They're easy to transfer people out, but it seems like it's a little harder process to get timely transfers back in just to fill the gap. So we're still struggling with that. We still maintain good engagement with our partner agencies. Everybody gets along well. They're finding the same issues as we do when it comes to staffing levels and retention. I did try to bolster some of the enforcement efforts, more of education through some of the media releases. So I've been doing what I can to keep Cole and his staff busy with at least some public education tips for the general public. I also, Mawatha Beach, Long Lake communities, stuff like that. I have in-house distribution through their emails where they give me their newsletters. We try to give them information as well. Share information wherever we can within reason, attend their events. May 8th, we did have a couple individuals that we picked up on a traffic stop where they had firearms and known as prolific offenders. We did a press release on that back in May just to appreciate the public because that was called in from the public. And we rely so heavily with our big jurisdiction is people calling us with concerns for us to check out. And sometimes those are good tips. So in the visibility realm, we doing what we can to be out there wherever we get the invites. So in the first quarter, we did 9 appearances in the community, and that was school and summer village communities for their barbecues. So anytime we get invited where there's food, somebody's gonna show up. We also had a council meeting with you folks. Buffalo Lake, I know we have an agreement that was just put in place with K Division. It's not so much to do with the county, but we do have a formal agreement with them with the position that they pay for. So that's been finalized and it's going to be implemented. I think final signing will be in the fall. And that'll be about a 3-year agreement, I think. So that's quite a lengthy process, but it's positive for the area because that gives us more staffing in this area to rely on for those amount of years as well. As far as feedback from the public, no major issues. I'm not getting any from our partner agencies that are working with my staff as well. Everybody seems to be getting along and there doesn't seem to be any issues that I need to address. So that's good. Everybody's playing nice. As far as stats, I just did a snapshot. I'm not going to go into a bunch of reiteration. You have the reports as well, but I did pull from April to June, and what I like to see is go through and exactly see what our office is facing. So we had about 700 calls for service. It sounds like a lot, but when you start breaking it down, you look at some of those calls are not requiring police attendance. So I just tried a snapshot of what we were doing specific to property crime and persons crimes. So from April, May, and June, we were seeing a decrease both person and property crimes. As you can tell from Lee's presentation going into summer, we were a little busier, but that'll be in the next quarter presentation. So heading into the spring, summer, we were looking at a decrease in those areas. And I try to attribute what causes those are without knowing 100%, but my educated guess would be we have a lot of our known offenders in jail. Some of the court just finished up in the last couple of months as well, and we know that we've getting some of our violent ones that were attributed to a lot of our violent crimes. We're getting some lengthy sentences, so that's good to see. And I can honestly say probably for the next 2 to 3 years, we won't be dealing with some of those individuals, which doesn't sound like much, but today's day and age with pre-custody time and the way that they formulate the jail sentences, a couple years or better is good. Most of the property crime from what I can take from our snapshot of those months, it is occurring in a lot of the rural areas, and I can't say we can be everywhere, but that's where we rely on a lot of the reporting. So a lot of the rural incidents that we do have is reporting after the fact. And if it's not, 5 or 6 incidents specifically happening in a certain area, it's tough for us to take from those other areas and have officers only focus on one area. But it's still a good gauge of where those incidents are happening. So some of the problems that we did have, Grassline trailer sales got hit. I can honestly say that there were some issues there regarding alarms, stuff like that, but no fault of the owners. It's just the way it happened. We did place some charges, and we do have an individual as of the last couple of weeks that was finally picked up on and in custody on those charges. So we're doing what we can to hold those people responsible. It might take some time for us to catch up to them. I can honestly say that we don't give up though. We don't get paid to stop looking for people that are committing these crimes. And they are from the area. This particular individual that was picked up is not from the Boyle area. That was a person that was picked up in the city. So I'm not going to attribute all our problems to people that reside in our area, because some of our offenders are trying to make changes. So I'm not going to peg the blame on everybody that everybody thinks. We have a provincial matters. What I'm looking in that area is some of our enforcement efforts. So I try to see what our members are doing on the highway for enforcement statistics. We're lacking a little bit going into summer, but I attribute that to the staff that I'm transferring out are my senior members, and I'm being replaced by members with zero experience. So a lot of those for the first 6 months, they're coming to us for training straight out of the chute of depot, and they're paired up with another individual. And we have a lot of policies in place where they have to meet benchmarks before they can graduate to be on their own and be a full-fledged Mountie. They are hired, but when they come, they're on training program requirements, so, and I can't just give them a set of keys and let them go have fun. We have to make sure that they're doing what they need to do. So our enforcement numbers may be down because we're essentially tagging members up with each other, and a lot of their time is educating their own recruit versus being out there trying to catch all the bad guys. However, I guess my only goal with these newbies is to educate them as quickly as we can on who our problem people are and where our problem areas are, so that they can hit the ground running and know that, you know, their efforts, once they get on their own vehicle, they need to be in certain areas, or they need to be watching a certain property. Know where the fishing spots are, so to speak. Collisions, I had a look at those. No concerns for me. They're about the same levels. A lot of them revolve around animal strikes, but I did notice in the spring and early summer that there was a lot of grass mowing on the ditches. And that really did increase visibility. So I'm attributing that some of our collisions are being prevented 100% by just having that widened visibility on the roadways. Persons crimes, I have no concerns with that. A lot of those were people that know somebody, so assaults or any weapons offenses are disputes between people that are acquainted with each other. We don't have people coming to the area victimizing on the streets is kind of what I compare to. So I'm not looking at an individual that might be released to the community that's going to be causing problems for us. It's a lot of private incidents that don't usually draw much media attention, and we don't talk about a lot of the personal issues that are going on between individuals. So some fraud related incidents. A lot of those we're trying to curb a lot of that with some public education, and that is your online or phone solicitors that are ripping off people, stuff that we can't really prevent other than try to get some education out to people to maybe hold off, report to us, try to get some more information before they see their money disappear out of a bank account. Uttering threats, again, mainly around people that know each other. Property crime, I broke that down so everybody knows exactly what we were looking at. So for example, we had some stolen vehicles and property recovered. They were from outside the area. One was a truck from Spruce Grove. The other was some property from Lac La Biche. So it was stolen from another jurisdiction, dumped in ours. We're trying to reunite people with their property and do what we can to collect some evidence on those individuals that might have been throwing the bag out in our backyard. Some mischief related issues, those are broken down to basically vandalism. There's not really a vandalism, it's called mischief. So mischief would be interfering or damaging people's property. And there's a snapshot in there. Again, a lot of that is rural. So somebody might break a car window in a hotel parking lot. We're attributing that, yeah, it's a broken window, but that signifies that that individual probably was either stealing something from the vehicle that was visible, or they were trying to steal that vehicle. And we expect that if that was the case, the bear is going to come back, so to speak, if they're looking at trying to steal another vehicle. So I try to look at some of those problems where we might be trying to increase patrols in that area to avert vehicle thefts or something more drastic from just a broken window. Break and enters, we had two other property, and meaning by other property, it's not a house or residence or a garage. It was a remote power site that we had looked at. And the other one was a grassland shop. So those are reported after the fact. We aren't notified of that until somebody actually comes within a time frame and tells us, hey, I noticed that something was wrong here. We come check it out and we're already behind the 8 ball. So it's a little frustrating, but it's still good for us to report and at least get up there and assess what we do have. We did have 4 break-in out of residences. 3 were in Buffalo Lake and 1 was a Wandering River hotel room. Again, we're doing what we can to catch up after the fact. Some thefts we had. Some were, I can see in-house, maybe employee related. There was a rural energy site ×2 where copper wire was trying to be stolen or stolen. Cell phone, a wallet was stolen, some lotto tickets at a convenience store. A rural acreage had a water pump stolen. There was parking lots. Fuel stolen from a parking lot in the Boyle area, as well as somebody even reported that their coffee got stolen. So Must have been good coffee. Power from the rural residents was also being reported by utility companies being rerouted and stolen. So we're looking at a variety of theft issues. Long Lake Campground, landlord tenant. Tenant cleaned out the landlord's place, stuff like that. So stolen vehicles I broke down to, we had one in Buffalo Lake, a stolen trafficker in Buffalo Lake, holiday trailer in the Elscott area, and a boat trailer combo with Crow Lake area, as well as one quad in the Caslan area. So you can see those are quite widespread and can't be there all the time. So a lot of the time we're trying to work with owners to work with their insurance companies and try to get recovery. And a lot of the cases, the property's gone for several days before you notice. We're doing what we can to monitor its recovery, whether it's another agency recovering it in a different jurisdiction. If they do, then we're working with them to see what physical evidence they have, and then try to get some surveillance or maybe places these people stopped, if we can gauge on what path they took to get where they had taken the stolen property to. Breach of the peace, those are disturbance related. We had about 47, so that's where we're called to basically be the referee between people. Various issues, whether it's arguments or things, road rage incidents. Provincial acts, I didn't get into every provincial act that we have, but you can get a snapshot on the provincial acts. So that's anything from the Mental Health Act, assisting the fire department, you know, if they have a fire, they'll call us for a bit of scene security, helping them out with traffic control. Bylaw related matters, we don't specifically deal with all the bylaws, but we do what we can to not pawn a bunch of work off on the county. So if we have bylaw related issues, we'll look at what the complaint is. We'll try to get some information, and if we can, we'll pass it off onto the peace officers and work with their office. And we find that if we can give them some information versus just pawn work off on them by saying, hey, this guy had a bylaw issue, call him. We try to get some information first and engage it for them, so it saves them some legwork as well. Trespassing on property incidents, people report to us that somebody might have been on their property with trail cameras or they noticed on surveillance. We don't consider that potentially a crime other than the Trespass Act. So if you go on somebody's property, whether it be a field or a residential acreage, under the provincial legislation or the Trespass Act, you could be facing a fine. It's up to you to determine to us, if we catch you, why you were there. And if you say, I was just walking through, well, we don't believe you, but here's your ticket. So we can still write them a ticket. It's about a $600 fine. Abandoned vehicles, we get a lot of those calls, especially on the highway. We do check them out to make sure that the owner is aware where the vehicle is, and then find the circumstances, and it's not just stolen vehicles, or somebody's not having medical distress and maybe passed out in the vehicle. So a lot of those abandoned vehicles, we still will check out to make sure that everything's up and that they're safe for the other road users. Road rage incident I seen. I say people got tempers when it comes to driving. As far as some enforcement in the Wells jurisdiction, we had some no insurance, some stop line violations, some speed violations. We had a pursuit with the Fish and Wildlife where three motorcycles took off on them. They just tried probably doing a traffic stop with 3 regular motorcycles, and there's just no respect. Red and blues come on, keep going, and their policy, I imagine, would be the same as ours, where the risk to try and chase down a motorcycle is futile, and we're not going to hurt them or any other road users. So we were just made aware of the incident. Some seatbelt violations, cell phone violations, some of those fractions are being written. A couple impaired driving investigations and ATV complaints, I think weren't too bad for us, but I believe those months we were pretty restrictive on ATV use due to the fire issues. Suspicious persons vehicle property reports. This is what I like to see. We had 42 reports. No incidents of criminality determined after check by the police, but my guys are checking all those calls. So if you think something's suspicious out in the rural area, we might not get there right away, but at least we'll make a patrol, try and check it out, and then get back to you, let you know that, hey, we did check it out. It's your neighbor on the road that's parked there for a while, or maybe somebody that wasn't, you weren't aware of their vehicle, but we checked out the vehicle, it's not stolen, and we'll tell you that things are safe at least. So I like to have those because sometimes in the incidents where we do get alerted to some people with firearms, or maybe they're coming from other jurisdiction with stolen property, we can intercept these people. Motor vehicle collisions, the only thing that we had two fatals. One was an ATV involving an adult male on a side-by-side in the Water River area. It was very unfortunate, but that was reported. And then we also had a collision on Highway 63 with a small car involving a large tractor. That was north on 63. 8 collisions involving non-life threatening injury. So that still is people having to be treated at the hospital or further treatment from the scene. So we still had some people having some injuries. And then 65 collisions involving property damage over 5,000. So whether it's deer, moose, people still have to have the police involved, and there's reporting requirements for the province. So that takes up a lot of our time as well. My staff right now, during the April, May, June, I was down to, like I said, 2 vacancies. And now heading into the fall, I only have 1 constable vacancy, which is good. But like I said, over the last 3-4 months, I went from 4 years service members down to 2+, and 3 recruits. So we got newbies getting trained by 2-year+ members, which is good, but it puts a lot of stress on those members that are obtaining a couple of years service because they're still trying to learn a lot of the ropes too. So I work with Lee here, especially in Boyle, to try and bolster up some of our presence in the community for school zones and trying to get back into schools for the fall. So personally, I will be contacting and visiting the schools myself to try and ensure that those communication channels are still there. And then we're going to do what we can to try and assign some constables to certain schools. Just haven't had a chance to pan that out and cater to it, but at least I can open up that communication where we're going to get the public appearances met and any commitments that schools want to do with education and stuff. And I can liaise with Lee as well. So his department's going to be short, mine's going to be a little short, but if we work together, I think we can provide a pretty good service. So that's what I'll be looking at doing into the Q2, and you'll have that report judging from what we do in November. So if you have any questions, I'm here, but I appreciate the time.
It's now Acting Sergeant Fisher, right?
Fenton.
Fenton, I'm sorry.
No worries, sir. Your name's Fred?
Exactly. I skipped the welcome introductions part that I always write on my agenda because we see Sergeant Simpkins and Paprese so often, but I would like to apologize to you for not taking a second to introduce the team and the people that are at the table today, who I think you've met a little bit, but we have our CAO, Mr. Bob Beck, Recording Secretary, Ms. Blair, Communications Coordinator, Mr. Schenkelberg, Councillor Minns, Councillor Holland, Councillor Chamzik, Councillor Wallach, Councillor Anderson, and Councillor Kapitanek. Missing today are Councillors Gerlich and Cromwell. And again, I'm sorry that we normally would do that, but floor is yours.
No worries. Thank you, sir. Councillors, glad to be here. Where to start? So I guess I'll start by throwing Mark under the bus because Mark's not here. He said to me before coming, he said, they just want to know if the police are doing their job that they were hired to do. So I'm going to tell you, yes, we are. Okay, see you later. So to break down our priorities, number 1 is break and enter, and number 2 is habitual offender management. If we go back over the stats from last year to this year during the same time, our break and enter to businesses is relatively on par, meaning that I think we've gone up 2 from last year within the same time period. However, with residences, we've gone down 5. So we're catching the residences more than we are the businesses. The good news is that our offender management initiatives are catching those that are responsible for these crimes. The one gentleman that left our area that was an habitual offender, they caught him in Winnipeg, Manitoba. He is now facing 395 days of jail time over there, and that doesn't include what he's wanted back here for. However, based on that, our stats should start going down because he was predominantly one of the main parties, and maybe it was our harassment. No, that's not the right way to say that. Our initiatives to go after these types of individuals that was privy to allowing us to get him out of town, and Winnipeg caught him. Also on our offender management, we had of the 3 that were prolific offenders, 2 are now in jail. The one being in Manitoba and the other one that we just arrested here a couple weeks ago. They have been responsible for, I would say, more than 80% of the crime that's been occurring in this area. And it's been relatively quiet in that respect since they've been in jail. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out who's doing the crime. And if we can keep them there, that would be great. With respect to that, on the offender management side, we have been diligently working with the Crown prosecutor in order to keep these individuals in jail longer, find out what we're not doing and do it so that we're working hand in hand with the Crown in order to best utilize our skills and their skills to keep these guys in jail. We had one prolific offender that was released. I don't have to tell you the story. I'm sure you've heard them all. After speaking with Crown and Crown going to bat for us, it was the Crown that is associated primarily with bail hearings. Now we have, and I'll explain that, we have predominantly 2 Crowns that we deal with. It's the Chief Crown that's in Fort Saskatchewan, and then we have what's known as a bail hearing Crown. When we arrest somebody, we complete what's called a judicial interim release. And it's where we put the information on this individual to the Crown that is initiating his release. Now, if the bail Crown isn't reading the documentation that we provide to them, we have a problem, because it's that information that they need to share with the JP in order for those individuals to remain in custody. The problem is that they weren't doing that. So at the last meeting that we had with this Chief Crown for the bail initiatives, we addressed those problems. She has taken it on her own to make sure that this doesn't happen anymore. So we're hoping that with our ingenuity of bettering our relationships, that this is going to transpire and bring us dividends tenfold. My friends talked about everything that they do in their initiatives through the course of their daily duties. I won't get into that too much with ours, with stats. We do a lot. What I would like to speak to you about is a couple things that have happened just recently. And one of them has been thefts of copper. And I know you hear the stories about this all over the place. What is happening now is the oil field sites are starting to use aluminum. It's not as conductive as copper, but they can get by using more with less, for lack of a better way to put it. What's happening though is that our criminals are still stealing the wire, thinking that it is copper. There's no value in stealing aluminum. So they have suggested to us that they are going to start putting signage on the wire to show them that if they want copper wire, they're going to hang a spool over here. Or not copper, aluminum. They're going to hang a spool there to save them some work of stealing the aluminum wire that's running in the troughs. I don't know how else to explain that any clearer, that we're working with individuals that promote our job security. Something that happened yesterday, we had some buffalo on the loose. You've seen that on social media through the weekend. They were captured last night. One was shot and the other was roped and brought back. So everybody's good in that respect. Some of our resources were utilized with our missing person lady. We threw everything that we had at that and we can't find her. We've had the dogs, we've had thermal, we've had divers checking bodies of water. We have had psychics that we have listened to and thrown resources at in order to come to or bring it to a conclusion. We haven't been successful with that. We don't know. We're at wit's end. We got some more initiatives that we're going to try, but yeah, that's not a good indicator for us for bringing that one to a conclusion. Staffing levels. So the sergeant position was finally posted. I don't know whether Mark informed you, but we did have a sergeant coming. However, much to his own chagrin, he isn't coming anymore. So that position was taking off the lateral and put up for promotion. So by the end of this month, the posting will be closed and hopefully November-ish, we should have a body in that position. That would potentially close the ranks for our NCOs, and we're still short one body on the floor. We are continuing to book town hall meetings. We found those to be extremely successful. People, the last one we held at Grossmont Hall, I think we had 50 some people out. And ironically, the only problems that we had there were counselors from another body. I'm just
From
ribbing
Division
you.
8 or?
No, it was all good. We also started an initiative with Coffee with a Cop, and it was successful through the summer. We generally had anywhere 5 people sitting down and wanting to discuss a variety of topics that we were more than pleased to accommodate. The projected forecast with a few of those things is the town hall meetings are going to continue. I suspect that we're going to slow down with the Coffee of the Cop through the harvest season, because we're not going to get any farmers coming in for coffee, and everybody else who's got a day job gets in trouble when they try to leave, right? Counselors, no? Subject to your questions, that's pretty much what I brought to the table.
Well, thank you. I know council always has a few questions for you, but I think one of the things that I've learned and, can synthesize from all 3 presentation is that when offenders are in jail, they stop reoffending, and appreciate your work to do that. I have a couple questions, but I want to open the floor to council first, and then Councillor Holland. You always have a question.
Actually, I don't have a question, other than, it's nice to hear that the mowing programs are actually working to slow down some of those wildlife strikes. That's awesome. It's very sad to hear that, you're having to now stop farming equipment, to check for impaired drivers, that, we have a Facebook message out there for everyone to be aware that harvest is happening and to watch for the equipment. But I'm thinking they weren't expecting them to be driving down the highway impaired. So that is a real concern for me, and thank you for bringing that to light. And hopefully, people will be a little more aware that's probably not a good idea to do. Other than that, thank you all again. Appreciate you more than you know, so thank you so much.
Certainly, other folks, seems to be the traffic stops, and it's been reiterated time and again by you when you come, how valuable those are, and the number of times that there's high levels of success just from simple traffic stops, and we appreciate that kind of work. It especially, remember a presentation years ago, we talked about enforcement and accidents on highways, and we can set all the rules we want, but if we don't enforce them around speed, especially, they're no good. So I'm glad you're out there doing that. The question, one of the main questions I had was, what advocacy can we do to make your job better and to improve the quality of life and public safety in our region? Does it involve, more advocacy around Rural Crime Watch? Does it involve speaking to our MLA? What do you need from us?
Well, thank you for your support, and it's great to have it. We, when we spoke to the town of Athabasca here a month ago, maybe a little better, it was just before Mr. Mayor was going to speak to the Premier. And Mark spoke to him regarding the problems we were having with the offender management. And if there was something that could be done at their level, and they wrote a letter to the Premier addressing those concerns. And he took with him some ammunition that Mark had provided to him, again, reiterating those concerns. I haven't spoken to him yet or heard how he made out with that meeting, but any support that we get is greatly appreciated.
The only thing I can add is any of the ratepayers or people in the jurisdiction that you come across, try to promote that they report any concerns. Reporting is something that I can't stress enough. And I know we get the comments of, well, I didn't want to bother the police, or they have better things to do. Our thing is like I said, for us to know what's going on in a large jurisdiction is very difficult for us to mind read where the problems are. And we know that one problem in the south end of the jurisdiction might not be the same problem that's up in the north jurisdiction. So for us, it's like I said, promote that reporting. If somebody has a gripe about us or maybe some of the service, I know we're not perfect, but I like to really hear that from the community and then cater our responses and our service levels to meet the needs of everybody. So your support, I couldn't ask for anything better. I mean, you guys are phenomenal when it comes to us. And like I said, it's a broken record for us to keep meeting with you saying that we're short-staffed, we got high pressures. It's across the board, every sector of society. So we love the job. We're doing what we can with what we have, and we don't expect to come to your doorstep pounding that we need 20 more officers. My biggest thing is trying to sell this area to candidates to want to come here, not because they were put here, it's because they chose to come here. And members of the community as well. Like I said, if you know that somebody's interested in a career change, or they're interested in learning more about what we do as potential avenue that they might want to pursue, whether it's a high school grad up to somebody that's just looking for some excitement, mid-level, mid-year. I'm a big proponent on telling you exactly what the job entails and trying to sell it. My biggest thing is if we can attract people that live here to come back here, that's a win-win for everybody. So all I
Counselor
can-
Mins is wondering if he's too old.
No, age is just a number, and like I said, don't let the older folks fool you. To me, if we can get somebody that's older, I mean, in their forties, fifties, we still hire people across that board. But they bring a lot of experience to the table, and we are gonna be short management, so. Not saying you're gonna, not saying you're going into management. But I think if you have a good head on your shoulders, with a lot of life experience, we want you to go into management. So
And I know you've talked about feedback from the public, and I think what I hear in the community is only good things. And I suspect it's similar with my colleagues. The other note that I made while you were talking, and I know you've spoken to us in the past about the challenges that come from having all the new recruits, and again, I think to some degree that's a compliment, that your leadership and training is viewed as a place to send the next generation. So I don't have any other questions, but I think Councillor Mins does.
I was just wondering, you were talking about the recruitments coming in and you having to pair them up, so that takes time, not time, but that takes boots on the ground away from, you're doubling down, which is not a bad thing, but does that happen in most jurisdictions, or is it more prominent? It seems like maybe in Boyle, or
I can only comment from my experience. So places like Boyle, northern Alberta, to me, Boyle isn't north, but for people that want to be around Edmonton, Calgary, it's north. It doesn't attract a lot of people. And what we see by recruits coming is you're posted here, meaning that our staffing department gives you a posting for Boyle, for example. But once your time's done in Boyle, there's not many of the recruits that do their 4 or 5 years here that want to retain and stay here. A lot of them want to go to the bigger areas for more opportunities, meaning more units. So plainclothes, dogman, SWAT teams, stuff like that. Those are more proponent to the bigger centers, and I get it. So my goal is to try and flip it where we're trying to attract that mid-year or mid career person, where they might be looking at going into management, into a supervisory level in these places, to bring a small family. I know if they're going to bring a small family up here, or if you have a small family looking to join, that's good, because we can accommodate a pretty good living for you. You're not going to get rich working from us. Benefits are good. You got stability. You do have some flexibility where you want to go. But to me, if you're bringing a small family into this area, you're going to look to grow probably a good 10 years here, especially starting your kid off in school. So if we can attract those kind of people, or the people that live here and raise their families here and stay here, we're not going to only attract, I guess, the parents, but we have a chance to try and recruit the generation of their children coming up, because they see the lifestyle. They know it's a good living. They might be excited to be a police officer as well. That also attributes to EMS, fire, nurses, doctors. If we can sell this area to those younger families and not just the individual, that's our goal. And a lot of the recruits, unfortunately, that come, they're 21 years old by themselves, so they're only looking out for themselves, which is fine, but it's usually their career in themselves. But if I can attract them to retain here, that's what we want to do. So we're trying to sell that to them, and we have that small time frame from the recruits coming to try and sell the place to them, to say, hey, there might not be quite the opportunities here that you're looking for in your career, but it is a safe community to raise your kids. It's a place that everybody actually cherishes to have you. You go out in the public and you're well received. And I mean, the communities that we do police out here, hands down, there bar none compared to anybody else. You feel like you're very appreciated, and you are part of the community here. And you'll see that with a lot of our members joining hockey, coaching hockey, being out in the schools, maybe volunteering in some of the fun runs. That to me is going to sell. So I wouldn't say that the recruits coming are forced to be here. They're posted here. If they didn't ultimately want to come, I mean, they have the luxury of saying, that's not for me, I'm out. But all the smaller areas are facing that same general staffing, where we're getting younger members posted, not so much choosing to be here. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, you betcha. No, and I want to thank all of you for actually going out into the community. And I'm a huge proponent on getting into the schools and at an early age and stuff like that. So thank you very much.
Gentlemen, thank you for spending the morning with us and sharing that. And I think I can speak for our council, say we remain open and available to assist when you need us. And if it's, you know, a letter to help with the Crown or to reinforce how critical some of these habitual offenders are, let us know. Let's, council, shall we take a 7-minute break and come back at 25 minutes after on the clock? It's 25 minutes after. It's 25 minutes after, and I'd like to reconvene the September 10th County Council meeting. So we haven't ordered lunch, and I think from what I see of the agenda, there's no reason we shouldn't be wrapped up by 1 o'clock. So unless anyone objects, are you okay just running straight through and being done? Quicker than 1 would be good.
I will need to leave by 12.
Okay, well, we'll see. We'll go till we don't have quorum. How's that? Still don't need lunch. All right. We are at number 9.1. It's 9.1. This is on page handout of your agenda. It's the handout that Ms. Blair provided to you before. This was the item we added regarding the Atmore Hall capital contribution request. Everybody did have this last night, but do you want a minute to review it? And Administration Director Ombley, do you want a minute to speak to this? Or anything you'd like to add before I ask for a motion from council?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair. It is an urgent matter, and that's why it's before you.
Councillor Chamzik.
Like to make the recommended motion, please.
Okay. Councillor Chamzik has made a motion that council approve the Atmore Hall's capital funding request for 5 lengths of 20-foot PVC pipe, either 6 or 8 inches, for an estimated $3,800, and further to source the funds from the grants to organization's budget. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. On the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 7-0, and that motion is adopted. Well done, Ms. Kaczmarchuk. I'll bet you thought, oh, you're going to get grilled and lots of hard questions. Thank you. We are now at number 10.1V, Greater North Foundation. I just wanted to give you a brief update. Coming up at the next meeting, the foundation has been working hard on an asset management planning to support the capital reserve planning that they're doing. And so I would expect that at a meeting in October, I'll be able to give you a little bit more details, because we have a presentation coming up to provide some of the engineering that goes behind that to support that. And in terms of the rest of organizational details, the CAO transition from the long-serving CAO, Ms. Shirley Surgener, has occurred. Wanda Parker is the CAO of the foundation now, and she's also a long-serving member of the leadership team there. That's what I wanted to share on that. It would be in order to take a motion to receive the reports. Councillor Wallach has made a motion to receive the reports as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Count is 7-0. And that's adopted. We should receive a motion to enter closed session. Councillor Mins has moved. On the question of the adoption of the motion to enter closed session, all those in favor? Opposed? Count is 7-0. And we will all right, Councillor Wallach made a motion to leave closed session at 12:39. We've had a brief break. It's 12:46, and we're reconvening the September 10th County Council meeting. Councillor Anderson has made a motion to permit the CAO to provide a verbal update on closed session items 12.1 and 12.2 to the councillors who were not present. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, on the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? The motion is adopted 5-0. We need to reference also that Councillor Kapitanek left at. Okay, sorry, the CAO left at 11:54 a.m. Councillor Chamzik left at 11:55, and Councillor Kapitanek left at 12:06. The second motion is Councillor Anderson would like to move to table item 12.3, the CAO performance review discussion to the next council meeting. Any further discussion? Seeing none, on the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 5-0, and the motion is adopted. And Leo will give you copies of that. There is no further business on the agenda. It is 12:47 and 8:48, and I would like to adjourn the September 10th County Council meeting.